Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Melissa Andre. I'm the Executive Director of the Philadelphia Tax Review Board, and we are convening a session. Today is Tuesday, April 16th. It's approximately 2:08 p.m. And the category today is water revenue. With me today is our board chair, Paula Weiss, as well as board members Nancy Kamerdiener and John O'Connor. I am required to advise everyone to please be aware that this is a public hearing and it is being recorded. Because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no expectation of privacy. And by continuing to be in this meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. This recording will be posted on the TRB website. Paula, please take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Hearings are now in session. As Melissa said, we have some administrative information to provide before we get into the hearings for the taxpayers who are going forward today. So on our docket today, case number 2, which is the property 135 South 10th Street, last 4 digits of the docket 9989. That case is withdrawn. We're going to move to case number 5. As soon as I get there. Property address 1830 Hart Lane, last 4 digits of the docket 0070. This case is also withdrawn. We are going to move to case number 3, 6374 Overbrook Avenue, last 4 digits of the docket 9561. And that case has been brought back here for us to determine whether a settlement has been completed. So who has this matter for the city?
I have this matter for the city.
Thank you.
I apologize. I'm still working to get my. You're unable to hear me?
We hear you.
Are you able to hear the petitioner, Jesse?
Okay.
I'm in the room.
Supposed to be in the room.
Oh yeah, I heard my case has in the waiting room. Should I go somewhere else?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I hear you. Thank you. It's Philadelphia House. It's 6674 Overbrook. I was sitting here, but I heard my address.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. Hold on.
It's the rule.
Got it.
All right, we have a petitioner here for this case.
Oh, yes.
That caught by surprise.
I had no, we thought this case was settled, so we were.
Well, it is, I think.
It
Yeah,
is.
it?
Okay.
Adriana,
All right.
Have a seat.
Okay,
We're
great.
gonna handle that. Okay. Sorry.
Sorry about the confusion.
Oh no, it's all right.
All right, so you're Mr. Rule?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you are here for Philadelphia House Inc., correct?
Yes.
Can I ask, are you, what relationship are you to this organization?
Well, I have 2 roles. Philadelphia House is a nonprofit, and it's a residential home for international students. So they have an in-house director. I've had that privilege, basically being the house mom since 2008. But then I also have a law practice. So
okay, so you're a practicing attorney.
Yeah, so I when I got here the first time, I was as the director, but then I thought with the appeal, I entered my appearance because I was then working with counsel from the city. So that just made it easy, I thought.
Okay, so then do you want to start, or does Ms. Gonzalez want to start? What makes sense in order to tell us what the status is of the case today?
Well, if it's all right with Ms. Gonzalez, I thought I could give you a 30-second background.
Perfect.
And then, so the whole reason we are here is that in the spring of 2021, we, the Philadelphia House, the nonprofit, hired a plumber to replace our water intake from the sidewalk to the inside. And that cost us $5,000 and some dollars. But what happened was when the plumber replaced the valve or the meter, according to the city people, which I found out later, he replaced it upside down so that there was no usage being recorded. So we were being charged the minimum rate. And unfortunately, because the house was practically empty when the change was made, I didn't notice, and the bill goes automatically out of the checking account. So I wasn't comparing month to month to see that it was exactly the same. So then when we figured it out, we had the adjustment, and we came to the first hearing, and we had submitted evidence then that we did a per diem based by case analysis based on what we thought the average usage would have been during the period of time that the meter was stuck. And we came out to a total of we submitted that as the evidence, and Adriana, I'm sorry, this morning I forgot to send you that one, but that total was, and I have it prepared as an exhibit today, if you'd like to see it.
So I would object to the use of, if Mr. Rule is going to be using any sort of settlement letter as a exhibit, again, we do have an agreement in principle, but I think there was a little bit of confusion as to not understanding that the amount as it was in November would, if no payments were made, would be different today.
So I
So
guess the
I'm,
question is, I mean, we're obviously not planning, and Mr. Rule, you can comment on this. If in fact you have a settlement in principle, we are not going to go forward and hear and take evidence today.
I was
So-
just giving you the background on how we
No,
got to
that's right. So the
settlement.
background is
Yeah.
fine. So I guess the question is, I understand what you're saying as to what happened, what created, we all understand now what created that big bill. Have you and Ms. Gonzalez reached an agreement so that you do not need to have a TRB hearing on this?
I do not believe so.
But you don't believe you've reached an agreement, or you don't believe you need a hearing?
I do not believe we reached an agreement, because if they want if the city is now asking for a different amount that we agreed to in November, and they're saying I can't introduce evidence about how that agreement came about, how that settlement agreement came about, we have to move forward with the actual hearing, I believe.
and my
think what
response, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My response to that is Mr. Rule was given a very specific date that agreement covered up to. That date, without fully revealing the entirety of the settlement discussions, that date was November 13th. That agreement was agreed to, yes, at that time, but payment was not made in that amount and the agreement was not signed. Thereafter, when Mr. Rule reached back out to under the same terms of the previous agreement, multiple months had passed, multiple new bills had been issued. So in order to settle the entire account, the number necessarily had to change. I am very willing to honor the number he was given in November for the period up to the date included in the letter. But the rest of it, from November to today, is well outside of the board's purview and well outside of the scope of the petition. And are bills that were issued and sent to the property, to the best of my knowledge, that have remained unpaid. So that is makes up the entirety of the delta between the first letter that Mr. Rule seeks to introduce and the second letter that Mr. Rule seeks to introduce. So I feel that those is a gap in understanding of bills being issued every month and the date of a settlement letter being not one that's rolling. Because by this same standard, if we were to settle based on the number in November, that does not mean that this property will never receive a bill ever again. It only means that amounts up to the November date would be covered and we would accept the amount that was quoted for those dates. Anything thereafter would need to be paid and would need to be paid in the normal course.
So, Mr. Rule, understanding what Ms. Gonzalez has just said, with the November date as the cutoff date, is the number that the two of you spoke about in November a number you agree to? That is the appeal period.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, we've been paying our monthly bill every month on time. Every actual meter reading since November, we paid. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
so then the
Gonzalez
number in
saying
the
no.
November number is still the valid number for the period that was appealed.
Exactly.
Okay, so, and you agree to that?
Yes.
And Ms. Gonzalez has just stated that she also is still able to honor that. And that obviously bills that would have been issued post that November date are outside the scope of the agreement. You're now telling us that yes, in fact, they have been paid. I don't know,
Right. I
what
think
Ms.
that,
Gonzalez is seeing. So it does sound like you have reached a settlement.
I think the issue is even though we were paying the actual usage charges, we were not paying the accumulated late fees that were still being assessed as a result of the settlement not being finalized.
I would
So-
ask a different question, Ms. Gonzalez. Are his payments going to the earliest open liabilities? Thus leaving
I'm
his current liabilities open?
opening his account
But it sounds like
while
the
we're
two of you
speaking.
have worked this out and we really don't need to go through payment by payment by payment. But I would guess since the agreement was not finalized, it would not be an unusual event for the city to have taken their current payments for December, January, February, March, and put them onto the earliest open liabilities that actually cover that settlement agreement.
And that is, as far as the general accounting principles, that is what we are obligated to do. We are
I
obligated to honor first
understand
in,
that. I'm
first out.
just trying to understand what he's telling us versus what you're telling us.
Of course.
But it does sound like in principle, there is an agreement here.
I'm ready today to write a check for $716.94 to settle the matter up through November,
That would be November.
right? And then whatever additional payments we've made after November
Need to
should
be applied to the
through
current,
the current usages, correct?
correct. All right, so hang on. That should be doable.
Yes. So what I can see from the account for the Overbrook property is that payments have been made, but there are a couple of months that have been missed. I've no, and penalties have been waived in March, and penalties were waived in April of this year. And I have no qualms about making the penalty waiver about penalty waiver if that is truly what is the sticking point here. But there are a couple of places where payments were not in the total amount of the bill. I think they're probably a couple of bills behind, just on an
Since November?
accounting.
I'm talking December, January, February, March. All right, well, that's something the two of you should be able to work out. Because if
And
you've
I
got,
will be-
if you have proof
yeah.
of payment, Mr. Rule, and present it,
I will
then
be all over my
I'll
accountant if he has
deal with
not been paying these bills, because he's assured me, Ms. Gales and the board, that he's been paying our monthly bills.
I have a suggestion. It sounds like there is an agreement in principle, and would it be amenable to both parties for a 30-day status hearing? I can give it May 14th, where, we can you guys can take this next month to work out these tiny details that are not within the board's purview anyway, to come up with a settlement. And then if, of course, you guys reach a settlement beforehand, we can easily withdraw this case and nobody has to appear on the 14th. And if not, then we can proceed with a hearing.
right. That would be an actual, are you proposing a status hearing or a hearing?
A status hearing? I could do a hearing. I could do
I
whatever.
think we should do a hearing. If in
Okay,
fact there is no settlement on May 14th, we're just going to go forward.
sounds good.
So this matter will be continued for 30 days. Can I get concurrence from my fellow board members?
John O'Connor. I concur.
Nancy Cameron, I concur.
Thank you. All right, so Mr. Rule, Ms. Gonzalez, we expect that in the next 30 days, the two of you will have some conversations, see if in fact you have a meeting of the minds. If not, we will see you on May 14th, ready to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay,
very
Mr.
much,
Rule,
too.
thank you very much for coming in.
All right, bye-bye.
I'll
Bye.
be putting in case number 6.
All right, so we're going to move to what is listed as case number 6 on the docket. And that is 4666 James Street, William Wigmore, last 4 digits of the docket, 9928.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Welcome.
good afternoon.
My name is Paula Weiss, Chair of the Tax Review Board. We're ready to go forward with your case. Could you give us your full name and spell your last name, please?
William Henry Wigmore III, Wigmore.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. We're going to start with the city representative to get the numbers that are in dispute, time periods that you're appealing, as well as any summary information they want to provide. And then we'll come back to you for you to tell us why you're here and what you're looking for from this board.
Okay, thank you.
Who has this matter for the city?
I do. Adriana Gonzalez on behalf of the city.
Ms. Gonzalez, do you have any witnesses who will be testifying today?
Yes, Miss Brockington Long.
Ms. Brockington Lawn, welcome. Would you state your full name and position with the city?
I'm Angela Brockington Long, and I'm with the Water Revenue Bureau.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. I assume you have the numbers for us?
I do. Yes, the period in question is February 26, 2020 through March 31st, 2023. The principal is $2,269.51. Penalty $271.19. Lien $91.45, and the total $2,632.35.
Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez, any opening comments?
No, I think the city would like to hear from the petitioner before making any opening comments. Thank you.
Mr. Wigmore, we're going to turn to you. Could you explain to us what your circumstances, why you're here, what you're looking for?
Okay, as of 9/11/23, when I was here, I made an agreement, and the agreement was that the bill would, at the time, would be cut 50%, and all the 100% of the penalties would be taken away. So there was a discrepancy at that hearing of what I owed, and the person that was in charge told me to go over to get a water sewer account statement for that day. So I did, and I have that here. So that day it was $4,025.55 as of 9/11/2023. I was told I would get a paper not to pay anything. I would get a bill, and then would have the agreement would be it would cut in half, and I wouldn't have any penalties. Well, when I received the bill, it said $2,637.39. So I appealed it because, according to the agreement, it would have been cut 50% and minus 100% of the penalties, and the numbers didn't match up. So that's why I'm here, and I appealed it. And since I appealed it, when I did appeal it, thank God this office is pretty organized, because I was getting shut off notices. I was getting all these different things. And finally, they said, we know you appealed it and you will get notified. And they stopped it from me having a shut off from the water company. So I like the agreement. I really got stuck bad because the original bill, how this happened was I trusted somebody and they lied to me. And then everyone blamed it on COVID. And I pay my bills. I just want to pay the bill. But then the agreement that was first given to me, I thought that was a pretty fair agreement. But then when I got this extra penalties and 2,600, it doesn't make sense to me when I was told 50% of the bill and 100% of the according to my memory, and I wrote it down that day before I left, that it would be, that's what my bill would be. And then I would get the agreement in the mail. But when I got this, it did not, the numbers don't match up.
Well, here's where we are.
Okay.
And I'm going to check with Miss Andre. Was there a hearing officer, first level hearing here?
Correct. So,
Okay. And what was
sorry.
Go ahead. What was the decision?
The decision was, as Mr. Wigmore said, it was to abate 100% of the penalties, and the usage was adjusted from 7/20/2020 to 10/19/2020. So that's a different date of appeal period, and it was based on 600 CFPMs of water a month. So not necessarily halving of the usage, as Mr. Wigmore said, but more of a adjustment based on the usage amount, like the usage amount, not a split of the bill 50/50.
Okay, so your interpretation, Mr. Wigmore, may not have been quite correct to start. However, let me start from the very beginning, and that is your decision to appeal that bill from that hearing officer vacates that decision. And we essentially, once you're in front of the tax review board, we're starting all over again. So you don't get to piggyback off of that first decision and go ahead. We're starting back at square one. However, I'm going to ask Ms. Gonzalez. I assume you're representing this case, Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes,
If
that's
you are
correct.
willing to agree to that hearing officer decision as our starting point to figure out, or for us to affirm it or work with it, or if you believe, or your position is we need to start all over again.
I think that there is a brief amount of explanation that Mr. Wigmore might need to hear, in that the usage was adjusted, but service and stormwater fees would not be cut by 50%. So that is why in total, the number did not seem to move by exactly 50%. Looking at the usage and understanding the usage, the number that the hearing officer came to was approximately on balance 50% of the usage,
And
which
how
is
much-
all, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, can you tell us the dollar value of that,
Of the usage itself,
of the usage that was removed?
the dollar amount of the usage that was removed was, I'm sorry, I have to do it with a calculator because it's a credit
sorry.
adjustment and
I
the
know
debit
it's-
adjustment, of course.
So, Mr. Wigmore, from what Ms. Andre read, it does sound that the decision did not give you an actual dollar figure.
Is there something else I can add? One of the reasons I followed the gentleman's instructions to go across and get the bill that day is I had paid close to $1,000 towards the bill already before all this had happened. I had to buy a new meter. All these things had happened that I had no idea what was going on. I mean, the person that was in my property had completely destroyed the water meter, destroyed my house. But we're here for the water bill. And I had no idea. And in the past, the water company always notified me if the bill was behind. Well, the reason I never got because I pay my bills. If I get a bill, it gets paid. And my problem was I never was notified until years later, and everyone was blaming it on COVID. You know, it was because of COVID. And I couldn't get into the house. I couldn't get up here. I had things going on because I'm a pastor in upstate New York. I couldn't get down here and take care. And I was taking her word for it that everything was good until I started not getting she wasn't paying rent. She was and it wasn't even rent. It was an agreement that she could live there because I felt bad for her because her husband used to rent the place out. And when he died, I felt bad for her and the kids. And this woman just took advantage. And I'll never be a landlord again. I'll tell you that.
Understand that.
But
But it does sound like the hearing officer took all of that into account because that would be one of
that's
the
why
considerations for
he was-
removing all the penalties.
but
That you were certainly not acting in bad faith or intending to
no. And the other
fraud
thing
the
was
city, and we understood that, and he took that into account.
why am I getting more penalties? That's what I don't understand. Because the
Well, there's
penalty,
still an open bill if you haven't paid the amount,
but
for whatever reason.
I pay the amount of the bill every month that when it comes in. And it says on there, since the arbitration or since I've been set up for this hearing, they find they're not going to close the bill.
Right, but they are going to continue to bill and whatever is still due.
I would love to pay the bill. I just want to get an agreement
Okay,
and
so let's
find out what the agreement is and have a better understanding, because I truly believe the way it sounded to me that day, and I wish you could hear the recording. I think they recorded it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote 50% down, and I don't know why I wrote and 100% of the penalties. And then I followed his instructions and went over and got the bill, because their bill was higher than what the bill was at the water company that day when I went there.
Okay, hold on. Let's see what Ms. Gonzalez has been able to determine.
So at the time, the credit adjustment, the amount adjusted off of the usage, which was rebilling the period at 600 CCFs per month, reduced the bill overall by $1,017.11, and 100% penalty was abated.
And how much was that?
$226.04.
Okay.
Since that date, that from the date of the adjustment, the first payment was then the adjustment was made in September of 2023. The next payment that was received was in January of 2024. And thereafter, the next payment after that was received in March of 2024, and then a payment in April of 2024. So if Mr. Wigmore, if Reverend Wigmore is seeing penalties on his bill, it's because the months of October, November, December remained unpaid. However, the penalties that accrued are, again, as Ms. Brockington Long attested to previously, the penalties that are outstanding are in total of $219, but those are all outside of the period in question.
Okay. So that explains the adjustment from the hearing officer, Mr. Wigmore. I don't know if that satisfies you or you want to have us go through and hear the entire case.
But what I could start from everything because the day that it all happened and everything and how I found out about it.
That's why you've told us some of it already,
Yeah, well,
but
I'm
you
glad
know,
I
I
could
think
do
Ms.
that. 'Cause
Gonzalez,
I-
I think that you may have misunderstood the hearing officer in terms of what his decision was. And I'm not sure quite what dollar amount you were expecting, but I think we've kind of tried.
I thought it was going to be around $1,400 from when I figured out the numbers. That's what I thought the bill was going to be, about $1,400.
And what bill did you get?
I got when I got the bill,
It was
it
2269.
was 2,600, it was 2,000. Okay, so here's what it says in the letter. A total credit of $1,426.05 was applied to this account September 26, 2023. As of the date of this letter, your balance is $2,637.39. And that's when I said that number did not sound like the number that I was anticipating. And
Okay.
then there's a list of a creation date and water account statement and from 10/4/2023, and they had 2,637.39. But on the bill, it just, what is a debit billing adjustment?
That was taking off the amount that the
No,
hearing.
they added
officer
it
gave.
they added it to it. See, that's what I'm not understanding. If you look at this thing here, it says credit billing adjustment $2,301.96. It says running balance $1,723.59. Then it says penalty waiver granted minus $226.04. And it says $1,497.
Well, we can't see that, so we can't really
Can I
follow.
submit it to someone? Because this is what I got. This is what I
No,
have.
That's his usage, like that, I mean, that's his billing statement.
Yes.
That has everything on there, and that's why I don't understand why it was down to 1,300, and then all of a sudden they have a debit billing adjustment of $1,284.85, and then the bill went back up to $2,608.36, and that's what I don't understand. That's why I'm so confused about how everything's been, how it all is.
May I,
I would love to give this to somebody that can look at it and explain it to me.
All right, well, maybe well, here's the thing, you know, we either have to start from the beginning and hear this case, or you need to sit down with someone at Water Revenue and have them go over line by line what your bill is.
I did that before on that date with this one here, the one that I did on 9/11.
So somebody sat down and went over it
Yeah,
with
the
you
woman
line
that
by
was
line?
very nice. We sat there, we looked across, she explained everything to me. And the person actually said, this is crazy. The bill at one time was $19,000, which is,
All right, well,
I mean, it was
understand.
insane. I mean, it was like, but she explained it to me. And then, so that day, alls I know is when I listened to the person that was there, $4,025.55 was as of that date when we were talking. And
Okay, and what the result of that decision, because it wasn't a dollar amount, it was an adjustment of usage, so that hearing officer couldn't have given you a dollar amount that day.
he
because
didn't give me a dollar amount.
Right, so your assumption of what the dollar amount should have been obviously did not turn out to be what the dollar amount became, because what Ms. Gonzalez just read off to us was that the adjustment based on the hearing officer was to take off $1,017.11 in principal and $226.04 in penalty. That may or may not have been half. I don't know what the original bill was. It sounds like it wasn't. But that is the decision from the hearing officer. If that is unsatisfactory, then we need to start again now.
This-
I mean, that's the
Miss
decision. That was his
Brockington?
decision.
Ms. Brockington's trying to say something. Did I say your name correct?
Ms.
Yes,
Brockington Long?
Yeah, she was waving her hand up.
Oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
I did actually. Just looking at what the customer is talking about.
Mhm.
What happened was on September 26, 2023, they took off $2,301.96 of the high usage, and then they waived the penalty. So that $1,284.85, that's the rebilling of that time period at 6 CCFs. So it's less than the 2,000. So they took off $2,301, and then they
Started
rebuilt it.
again.
Right, and they rebuilt that period at 6 CCFs, which was much lower than the average of what he was being billed during that time. So that's where that number is coming.
Wh-
Then, of course, they took off the lien fees. They took off $91.45, 2 lien fees, and the $226.04 in penalties. So they did cancel a lot.
But my goal today would be to resolve all this today, so I don't have to keep coming back and forth and
Of course.
set it up so that I can just put this behind me.
Okay.
That's what I would like to do. I just want to be treated fairly, and I wish. I mean, this never.
But what
would-
is it that you want?
What I want can't be done. What I wanted to be notified when the bill was first.
Well,
the way it
we
was. So
can't,
that's done.
no,
That's
what
over.
is it today that you would like to ask this board to consider?
If you could consider for me to pay the $1,400 today to get this over with, because that's what I really thought it was going to be, I would be willing to do that. I would be glad.
And what would be the basis for reducing the bill?
But from what I thought that from the beginning of what I was told and with the notes that I wrote, and by me going to take care of this bill here, when I went there and found out what it was at the time, and I'm ignorant. I didn't realize. I really thought that he was talking about 50% of the calculation was 50% of the bill and 100% of the penalties, and that's why I'm here today, because I truly believed that the bill would have been around $1,400.
Well, let
And
me
I
ask
was
you
willing
this.
to
We
pay
haven't
that
taken
bill.
any, I'm going to interrupt you. We haven't taken any testimony. But you have stated this property, what kind of property is this?
I used to live in it, and then when I became a pastor in South Philadelphia, I had a house provided for me in South Philadelphia, so I rented it out and to Frank Parker. And when Frank Parker was a great guy. He took care of it and all. And when he died, the woman that he had a child with, I felt bad for her. Everyone was saying you should kick her out, kick her out. I felt bad for her, and I left her stay there. And she had a kid in high school, and she had a child in elementary school. So I just did what I could do. And my agreement was just pay the bills. Just pay the bills. I said, pay whatever you can towards, because there's still a mortgage on the property, towards the mortgage of the property, just to help me out. And my wife and I agreed that we would help her as long as she helped herself. She was doing pretty good. And then she just fell apart, and most likely she started doing drugs. That's most likely what had happened because of what the neighbors had told me. Because neighbors, if you want to find out what's going on, ask the neighbors. So pretty much that's what it was. So it got to the point where I said, here, you could stay there 6 months. She told me the water bill was paid. She promised me it was. I said, you can stay there 6 months, save your money, and you have to be out. And that's what I did. I gave her 6 months to save money. She had a good job, still does. Don't understand what she was. I know what she was doing. Most likely blowing it on drugs. But the bottom line is, however, whatever you decide, I'm at your mercy. I just want to resolve.
Well, we want to be fair,
Yeah.
but your testimony is that family was in the property, water was being used, and they weren't paying the bill. So
I had no idea.
I understand that,
Not
but
only
from
weren't
this
only
point
paying the
of
bill,
view,
they broke my meter. They broke it was I called the water company up and told the water company, look, this meter's busted. I need to get this resolved. So right away I had to buy a new water meter. We got that all resolved. Everyone took care of everything. It was it was tough because it was still COVID. I had to meet them there, and I had to come all the way down here and make appointments and all that stuff. Which I abided by. I did everything I was supposed to do. And
okay, so we need to hear from the city
Yeah.
Ms. Gonzalez,
I actually have a few questions for Reverend Mr. Wigmore, Reverend Wigmore, before turning to my witness. Sir, did you have a rental license for the period of time that the property was occupied and you were receiving money?
Only when Frank was there, but not when she was there, because I wanted to sell the property. So she had no lease. I had a lease with Frank. Did not have a lease with her at all. And there was no property, any taxes paid except for the property taxes. It was the only taxes I was paying at the time, because I was trying to get her to be able to buy the house at one point, which I thought could have worked, but it never worked. I just was used. It was a big mistake, all the way through, and a big learning experience.
And the money that but for the period of time, someone was living in the property and the plumbing was functional as far as you're aware?
Everything was functional. When I lived here, I would go up and take care of the house all the time. I moved in 2013. So I would come here about once a month, come down here. Then what had happened was Frank got cancer, Frank died, and then she took over. And when that happened, that's when everything fell apart. And I kept trying to work with her, and it just never worked out. I kept trying to. I would have been better off just having one of my daughters move into the house instead of what was happening there. And I should have done it. My daughter had to rent a house somewhere when she could have lived in my house.
And how many people lived in the property from 2020 to 23 people lived in the property?
Her son, her daughter, and her. Her name is Jackie Courtnick. Her son, her daughter, and her. And
I understand you didn't have a lease, you didn't have a rental license, but
No.
the amounts that you believe that Miss Courtnick owes, have you sought to collect any of those amounts from her?
At this point, I spoke to an attorney. It would cost me even more money. I would never get any money from her. It would be just dragging her to court for what reason? I called the insurance company. I had them come in and look at the building, all the damage and everything. And the place was infested with roaches, and she left, and she had cats in there she wasn't supposed to, and there was cat boxes full in there, and the refrigerator had nasty food in it. And it was just I couldn't believe that this was the same person I knew was living in my house like this. And the neighbors like applauded me when I came there, and my son and I just cleaned the place out, and we overgrowth stuff and all. And it's my fault. I should have been down here. I trusted her. When she told me, I believed her. I had no reason to think any different. And then when COVID hit, that just everything went crazy. And,
okay. You know what, I think we do understand the circumstance of what happened. Ms. Gonzalez, can you move on?
Yes. I'd like to ask Ms. Brockington-Lawn a few questions.
Could you focus also, I'm sorry, just on your, perhaps on I'm looking at the account history that we were provided, and I'm looking at a usage amount of on 10/19/22 of 28,100 cubic feet and a time period of 26 months. I assume that, and it says estimate. Could you kind of explain, as you're going through it, explain what happened? Because I think that's also part of the period that Ms. Brockington-Long said got adjusted somewhere along the way, and just kind of explain where that is today.
So to be clear, there were no adjustments made, and there was not an adjustment made on that base. That 281 was not billed.
Okay.
So it was recorded, but it wasn't billed because the estimate, over the course of the period, likely this is Ms. Brockington-Lawn may confirm the most likely reason for this, but that the estimated billing and the final read were close enough that there was no need for a rebilling.
Okay, so could you then have Ms. Brockington-Lawn explain what the actual reading was that got billed?
Yes. Ms. Brockington-Lawn, what charges appeared on this customer's bill for the period in question?
Usage, stormwater, and service.
And were the usage charges actual or estimated?
Both. They were partially actual and partially estimated.
What period was estimated?
From July 1st, 2020 through September 27th, 2022.
And are those estimated readings in line with other actual readings for the account?
Yes, they're in line with the previous readings prior to the usage estimated.
Did technicians go out to this property around this time?
Yes.
When?
October 19, 2022.
And what did they do?
They actually changed the meter and the ERT.
And did the meter and the ERT change result in any accounting adjustments made to the account?
No.
And what is the payment history like in general for this account?
It's been fairly regular.
Thank you. I have no further questions for Ms. Brockington Long. But I would, if I may, briefly coalesce what we've heard today.
Yes.
So what, to my understanding, and what Ms. Brockington Long has just attested to, is that the readings before the meter stopped reading are in line and I'm with exactly what the estimated readings were for the period of time that the petitioner also says the property was occupied by the same individual or nearly the same individuals for this entire time. Furthermore, the kind of bare allegation that this bill should be less is not an argument that bears merit if there's no other indication that the petitioner believes that our billing was incorrect. The property was occupied, the readings are, while estimated, are in line with the occupancy of the property and the history of the account. And that is borne out by exactly what the petitioner has stated. And again, wanting to pay less is not a meritorious argument for the Tax Review Board or the Water Revenue Bureau reducing the bill. And furthermore, it seems as though the petitioner has not made a concerted effort to collect the amounts that they believe they are owed under whatever agreement they made with that third party against that third party. So it's the city's position that before coming to the Tax Review Board to receive any sort of adjustment, one must actually make the argument that the billing is incorrect, and two, if the amounts are owed to the property owner by a third party, that recompense should be sought, or remuneration should be sought against that party, not against the city. The city had no part in telling the petitioner to allow this property to be rented out. The city had no say in the agreement that the petitioner had with the individual that lived in the property, and the petitioner and the city should not have to suffer for the breakdown in a contract between two unrelated parties.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Wigmore, a final statement?
October 22nd was the date that I was there. That's the date that the water meter was changed. That was the day. October 2nd is when I found out that the meter was busted. At first, I had no idea that it was busted. I had no idea that I owed this money for the water bill until I was calling to switch everything over into my name in September. That's when I found out about the bill. Not only that, when I went to the water company, they told me that the person that was living in the house would be able to get a $5,000 grant to pay for I couldn't do it because I didn't live there, but because she lived there, she could do it. So I had taken the paperwork to her and asked her if she would go and do this because this is what the water company said, and she never did it.
Okay. I mean, we can't.
I'm just
We
saying.
understand that someone
And-
took advantage of you. I mean, we really do have sympathy for that. We understand. But, we also have to consider the city's position as well. So I have one other question for you before we deliberate, and that is, when did your tenant actually move out?
October 2nd, 2022.
Okay.
October 2nd.
All right. Thank you. That helps. John or Nancy, any questions?
No.
Okay, so we're going to
No.
step back and deliberate, and everyone else just stay where you are.
If everyone just stay there.
Across to get the bill.
I'm missing somebody. Okay,
Nancy?
everybody's back.
Oh, yeah, okay. We are back in session. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We reviewed the evidence in front of us and the arguments made by both the petitioner and the city's representative, and it is the decision of the Tax Review Board in this matter to affirm the hearing officer's decision, which is that for the period of 7/20/2020 through October 19th, 2022, the usage will be reduced to 600 CFs per month, and all penalties for that period will be abated. And Mr. Wigmore, we want to explain to you that while the usage is being essentially halved, that does not halve the bill, because there are other portions of the bill, the service charge, the stormwater charge that remain that do not get cut in half. So we are essentially reducing the usage portion, which is what the parameters of our authority are. And we do want to state that we understand your plight and we sympathize with your experience in reviewing the bill. Really, and keep it in line with your testimony, the bill does not look out of line, does not look like there are errors on it, or there is no misbilling that we can see on this bill. So we feel that the hearing officer's decision, was his attempt to be fair to all parties, and that therefore we are going to affirm that decision. You will get a letter from the Tax Review Board within 2 weeks with that decision. An adjusted bill will come from the Water Revenue Bureau within 30 days, perhaps, Ms. Brockington Long. You'll get the adjusted TRB bill, and
Yes.
you'll have 30 days from that date to enter into a payment agreement with Water Revenue for the balance. Both parties do have the right to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. Should they so desire, they'll have 30 days from the date of our letter to make that decision. So thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate hearing from you today.
Thank you. And I just, please make sure that I get a bill and not a shut off notice. That's what
Yes.
happened last time. If I get
Yes.
a bill, I'll take care of it. I'll pay the bill. I get the bill, I'll take care of it.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for listening. At least this time you heard the whole story.
Yes.
God bless you. Bye-bye. You too. Thank you.
Okay. We are moving on to case number 1, everybody.
Have a seat.
Case number 1, Melissa?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
So we are moving on to case number 1, Curtis Williams Jr., last 4 digits of the docket, 9153. Good afternoon, Mr. Williams. Could you state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
First name is Curtis, Curtis. Last name is Williams, Williams.
And you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to turn to the city representatives so that we can get the dollar amounts and periods of time that you're disputing, and any opening comments they may have. And then we'll come back to you for you to tell us exactly why you're here, what you're looking for from the board.
Okay.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Could you repeat the property address in this matter?
5623 Malcolm Street.
My apologies. This was, I may have a different hearing list, but it was not on my hearing list.
It was an add-on. We sent notification over in March.
Okay, I'm very sorry that I don't think that I received that. May I have the address again?
Sure, 5623 Malcolm Street,
Thank
MALC.
you.
Okay.
Ms. Brockington Long, do you have the numbers?
I'm sorry, I didn't have this case either. I'm just pulling it up in bases. I don't even see, it doesn't look like it was in dispute. Yes, the owner's name is Williams.
Curtis Williams Jr. Well, while you're looking at that, let me turn to Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, can you explain to us your relationship to this property and why you're here and what you'd like to see happen today?
I'm the owner for the property,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to see the water bill fixed the right way, reduce and bill me the right way.
And what is your dispute with this bill? What kind of property is this? What kind of usage is there? Why are you?
It is my
Why-
personal property where I live at. I was living it.
Okay.
And
Yep,
then-
Ms. Brock,
Yeah,
hold on.
okay, it looks like there was a hearing on March 4th for this property, and he did not appear.
Again, this was added on to today's schedule. I
was
sent
it? Okay.
notification in March, on
Ah.
March 6th, and it was because he missed it by barely a moment. And so I
Okay.
gave him a new date and I notified the Water Revenue Bureau immediately.
Okay, let me see if I can pull up the account history. 1 second.
Again, I apologize for any mix-up, but I've searched my email and I don't have any notification of this having been added to the list.
I have an email dated March 6th.
To Sabrina Johnson, Chanel Smith, Brooke isn't there anymore, but Sherry Outen, Minette Williams. We did our regular notification.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just trying to pull up the account history, and at least I can.
Okay.
We
Mr.
don't-
Williams, what kind of, I know you said this is your personal residence. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Is it a row home, a single house, a twin? Tell us about the house.
It's a row house,
It's a row house. How many bedrooms?
3-bedroom, living, dining room, and a kitchen.
How many bathrooms?
1.
One bathroom. And do you live, who do you live there with?
I was living there with my son.
So just two of you in the property?
Yes, my daughter used to live there too. at the time.
Okay, I did find I do have the numbers, so I
Okay,
can
hang on.
read those. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the period in question is October 8th, 2016 through, I'm sorry, December 8th, 2016 through October 16th, 2023. The principal is $66,344.49. Penalty, $10,615.52. Lien, $1,483.20. And the total is $78,443.21.
For that period of time.
Yes, for that period.
Okay. Based on actual readings?
That's now looking at the history. This is 16 to 23. Okay. Well, all right, 16. So there was December 16. So there's 0 actual usage. from December 2016 until June 2017. And then there's spiked usage beginning July 12th, 17. And it's up and down, high usage with one estimated read, September 11th, 2017. High usage goes low and high again. And this is all actual usage, spikes in 18, very high actual usage. It's up and down, up and down. And then there's zero estimated usage beginning June 13, 2019, and that zero estimated usage and then spiked estimated usage until August 12, 2022. And then it stops. Let's see. Now there's, okay, and it's been shut off. The water was shut off on March 6, 2024.
If I may,
Yes.
and I understand this is highly irregular, and I'm unsure how I did not get notice of this, given that I understand that Ms. Andre sent the notice out in its regular course, and that the department did receive it. I'm unable to find the petition, and I'm able to find the listing of this particular property on the TRB website on the hearing list that was available, that's currently available. What I would ask, given brief perusal of the account, is be the opportunity to speak to Mr. Williams about this account in depth, because I do hope that there may be room for us to talk this through. And if not, then would be, very happy to have this heard before the full board. But I do believe that we may have some room to move toward each other, especially if this is Mr. Williams' primary residence.
I think that makes good sense based on,
I agree.
thank you, John, especially based on the amount of the bill for a row house. There may be
78,000.
right to talk about. I don't know. I know Ms. Brockington Long just said that the water is shut off, but I don't know if there'd been any investigation or anybody was in the house to see how that kind of usage was occurring. So, Nancy, would you agree to a continuance for them to have discussions? I think Nancy can't hear me, or I can't hear.
No, I couldn't get unmuted. I agree. I
Okay,
think
so
that
Mr.
the
Williams,
discussion needs to take place.
something here to talk about. Mr. Williams, Ms. Gonzalez, who is the city's representative, their attorney, would like to have an opportunity outside of this hearing process to speak with you to see if there's some kind of agreement that the two of you could reach that would be satisfactory to you without having to go through the hearing process. Would that be agreeable to you?
Yes.
Okay, then we're going to continue this matter. I'd like to make sure we have correct contact information for Ms. Gonzalez to reach out to you and for you to reach out to her. So, Andre, what's the best way to do that?
I think I could just give him Ms. Gonzalez's information. if
Okay,
that's
so we're going to
what
give you the
else.
information from Ms. Gonzalez, the city's attorney, and ask that you please contact her, and she
Sure.
will have a conversation with you to see if there's something that the two of you can do to work this out. If not, we will definitely have an opportunity for you to come before the board to have a hearing, but hopefully this can actually be worked out and settled. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this matter, thank you for coming in, and we appreciate your patience and waiting, but this matter is continued. So you're free to go as soon as Ms. Andre provides you with the information that will give you the contact information for Ms.
Appreciate
Gonzalez, okay?
All right.
Hang tight. And then, so this matter is continued, and I don't know if we have one case left. I don't know if anyone's here for number 4.
No, no one is here. No one signed in when I just went back out, so.
Okay.
it's 3:10.
So we're gonna move on.
Correct.
So, all right, so we're gonna move on to case number 4, which is 5152 Haverford Avenue. Last four
Thank
digits-
you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Last 4 digits of the docket, 0940. The petitioner has not arrived either in person in the room or by Zoom, nor contacted us. Ms. Gonzalez, do you know anything about this matter? Have you heard from the petitioner?
No, I have not heard from the petitioner. No, and it seems as though, I mean, their petition was signed by council, but it does not seem as though that council has continued representation of them. I mean, it's unclear. if
It's
they
unclear.
have.
And I don't know, who did we notify? Was there counsel, Ms. Andre?
You know, I'm looking at it now. It looks like we sent it to the address and we really should have sent it to council. So perhaps I can redocket it because.
My
it
concern
looks
is
like
this has been listed
a bunch of
many
times.
times.
Yes, many, many times. So why don't we make it no further continuances and I'll make sure that council gets notification. She last emailed us sometime in November. So in November of 23. So I would assume that based on that, she's still council, but the notification went to the property.
All right, so we're gonna mark this, if everyone agrees, continued, no further continuances will be provided. John,
I concur.
Nancy?
I concur.
Okay, so this matter is continued. I believe that is the last matter on our docket. So
Correct.
these hearings are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We will see you on Thursday.
We won't.
We won't.
We won't. Thursday was an administrative day. I thought we might need it. So I'll email everybody separately just to see if we do. But I don't think we do. So
Okay, but that's for the board.
So
That
we
will be
don't
inter-
have
That's
hearings on
internal for
Thursday.
the board.
yeah, that's internal for the board.
There will be no public hearing on Thursday. So thank you all very much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Take
long.
care,
Very
good.
everybody.
Go on.